So, welcome to another episode of Beta Talk. This season is being sponsored by Ultimate Renewables Supplies. Please check them out on their website and see all the wonderful good stuff they do in the wonderful world of heat pumps. Today, I'm going to continue my theme around training. How do the plumbers and heating engineers sort of transition into sort of the heat pump world? And I'm joined by Michael from Option Energy Solutions Limited. Michael's an award-winning installer based in Brighton, and also I'm joined by Tom from Arlo Plumbing, and they're based in that lovely place called Somerset, Taunton, I think. And we're going to be chatting to uh, Tom about his journey into sort of heat pumps. So, Tom, welcome to the show. Uh,
Thank you.
I think I noticed your post, didn't I, Michael, how Tom has sort of teamed up with you to do an install, or you went down there, or he went to you to sort of learn some of the sort of fundamentals of heat pump installation. Is that right?
That's right, yeah. So Tom's familiar with heat pumps already, um, but not in installing them all the time. So he wanted to partner up with somebody to understand the installation process a bit better. I install them all the time. I know Tom, I know he's a great installer, got really good company. So I said to him, why don't you just come down for a couple of days and we'll do an install together because I think there's a big problem in the industry is people go through the training, perhaps they'll do one of the uh, installation or design courses, and then they come out and they don't know how to actually apply it in the field. They don't really have a set process, and so what people really need is to be able to take what they've learned and almost be mentored by somebody that's doing it all the time, even if it's only for one job, but just to be shown. And then once you've seen it, it's something that you can pick up and run with yourself.
Did you
So that's
find
what
that
we done.
valuable? Did you find that valuable, Tom, when you did that with
Yeah,
Michael?
so I think let's put a bit of context on it as well, to be honest. So I was fitting heat pumps about 15 years ago. We
Right.
were fitting them in council houses for social housing. And we were fitting Mitsubishi Eco back then. Now, it was the 2012 build up where they're going to sort of discontinue gas boilers. So, we've been installing, or I've personally been installing them for quite a long time. However, there was obviously a bit of a lag. We had the 2012, 2015, 16, and it kind of died a short death, really. So back then, we were not fitting to the same system designs that we are now. And I think that's the key thing with this. It's not about fitting a heat pump or installing a heat pump. It's actually about the design process and making sure that it's set up correctly. Now, anyone can fit a heat pump. It's basically, an air conditioning unit in effect. It's got a flow and return pipe. Generally speaking, you're going to have a similar sort of valves on every job you do. If you fit it, it's not actually going to then work properly. Now, all the horror stories out there from the Times and the Telegraph and whatever else like this, you're hearing the negative side of it because there's such an industry lag of good engineers. And I think a lot of heating engineers will probably agree with me when I say this, the fact that there is a problem with the education side of it. We're all called heating engineers, but how many of us really are being trained like engineers now? Because an engineering standard in a factory is a lot better than what we're actually getting on the tools now. So for me, yes, it was valuable. Obviously, I plan on working closely with Michael to make sure we are providing the best installations, not just fitting heat pumps. So, we can do whatever we want now, but without that training, we're not going to push ourselves to the top of the queue. I think that's really important to get across, really.
That's a really important point. Just tell us a little bit about your company then, because you've been going a while. I mean, have you got a number of engineers that work for you? How does it
Yeah,
work?
so we're a small team. So we've got five of us in total, including the lady in the office that manages it all. So we predominantly are a heating company. We do, the odd bit of plumbing maintenance in the summertime when we get a bit quieter or for care plan customers. So we've kind of designed ourselves mainly for boiler installs. Now that kind of fits what we do and lots of servicing. So that's kind of our setup and our background. Now, not the main reason to go into heat pumps is 'cause obviously we all want to do our bit, and want to help people, not save money, but save their their CO2 outputs. We can do that in the heating industry on quite a big scale. So from a team perspective, we risk not moving forward with the times if we stay as a boiler company. So we've noticed a drop off this summer and last year as well compared to what we used to. So, that tells me the market's shifting. And with Michael, we've been up to Vaillant, Viessmann, done training up there, and we know that the curve is starting. And if we're not on it, we're gonna miss out. And if we lag in the next 5 years, we will just fall behind. And I think that now for me is the time to make sure I'm pushing the company forward in the correct direction.
So you've definitely you've noticed that you noticed that the sort of your customers aren't wanting so much boiler installations at the moment. There's a
Sure.
shift, is there?
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
know that as well. From Worcester Bosch and Vaillant, we know their numbers are down.
Yeah.
So I think they're talking 20 to 40% as boiler manufacturers. So we're probably about 20% down this year than what we have been. We've had a really good flurry the last 3 or 4 months, but the summertime had dropped off quite a bit for us
You're,
because of
you're in a you're in a lovely
where we
part
were
of
in the economy.
you're in a lovely part of the world, Tom. I mean, I haven't been sort of talking for a long, long time, but and of course you're not too far from Glastonbury, but you've got a lot of rural villages around you. I mean, are you doing oil
Sure.
as well? So that I
Yeah,
should
we
imagine.
are. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Are you getting the inquiries for heat pumps from customers?
Yeah, so we're getting a few come through, and we're kind of limiting how we respond to it just now. Again, mainly based on confidence to make sure we're giving the best we can.
Yeah.
So we're just playing with some different CRM systems, getting some more training in for the team to make sure that, as I said to you, we're going out and giving the best we can. But they're starting to come through. We've noticed more of them this year than we have before. We know we've got the organic traffic coming through the website for it. So all we've got to do is a few tweaks, and we can make it work pretty well, I think.
Well, how did you get into it, the heat pump world?
So I've come from a similar background to Tom. I was a plumbing and heating setup. And then a few years into it, I think it was like 2015, I decided to do a rebrand of my company and renamed it to Oxford Energy Solutions because before it was named after me. And I thought, we're going to offer heat pump installations and with a kind of build it and they will come philosophy. But they didn't come, Nathan. In 2015, everybody's on the gas grid around there where I
Yeah.
am, and it was the renewable heat incentive at the time, so people had to front all of the cost of it. So it was like tumbleweed, to be honest. There was a lot of tire kickers, if anything, and I sort of let it lay for a while. And then the end of the RHI was announced in 2020. I think it was 2020. It was around. It was around then, wasn't it? No, it was 2021, wasn't it? End of 2021, they announced the end of the RHI, and then there was a flurry of inquiries from there. And since then, it's been non-stop. So it took it was about 5 to 6 years after I initially started offering them that all of a sudden it just caught,
Mm.
and I'm just doing them all the time now, which is great.
Now you're renowned in the industry for your design expertise and using all these wonderful formulas because you're one of the Heat Geek elites, aren't you? And like I
That's
say,
right, yeah.
you've won a couple of awards, or the highly commendable installer of the year awards and all this kind of thing, haven't
Yeah,
you?
for the Southeast, I've got that
Yeah.
2 years running, highly commended Southeast, and then last year or this year rather, most sustainable South. So
Do
yeah,
you-
it's been a good time.
would you both agree then? So, like, obviously, I like the people in the Heat Pump Association. I like them a lot. I know them well. But what I've been trying to say to them and some of the people in the Department of Energy, Department, the Energy Department, is we got to think about how we are. We know we need a lot of engineers, but we've really got to
Yeah,
think about, well, how do they get trained? How do they get used to doing this stuff? I mean, would you agree that
yeah,
just going on one of these courses kind of isn't good? I'm not saying they shouldn't go on the courses. You're going to learn something, but
yeah.
what you two have done, you kind of teamed up, sort of helped each other along the journey. Do you think that's kind of the way we kind of should be doing it? I mean, should there be support for you guys to help others do it like this?
Yeah, I think the
Principle
problem
is
we've got
massive.
is the leadership in the industry, really. I don't know if you'd agree, Tom, but I mean, I can only look at the courses that I done. I done the heat pump installation course at GTEC in Farnborough, and the trainer there basically said to me, If you want to do if you want any design work done, ask the manufacturers. And if you've you know been in the industry long enough, you'll know that that's probably not a good idea if you want to get the best results. So then I moved on to I had to do the low temperature design course. I think it's put together by SIFI. I've done that at Logic for Training in Norfolk, and that was actually really good. The trainer was really knowledgeable. But then once you've got that information, it's like, how do you put that together into a coherent structure that you can follow? And I think that's what's really missing.
I agree.
Mm.
The design back end is really important because you can spend 3 days, 5 days, or however long doing a course, and the course is only as good as the trainer and the information put in it. But you come away from it and you kind of think to yourself, I understand it, but you know what? I want this to be. I want to go deeper, and it's always hard to do that in the classroom for the people. And I think this is where experts in the industry sharing their knowledge is really, really important to help others progress. So I think peer to peer is massive. Um, Obviously, I'm quite fortunate. Me and Michael are buddies through different courses and things that we've done before. So I hope it's an opportunity for me not to be wasted, I think. And I think anyone in the industry who has that opportunity and they're not taking it need to be looking closely at how they can maybe become better. And there's a lot of guys, that are very, very good and they've specialized in this stuff. And I'm sure most of them would share it as well. So it's just a case of asking.
Yeah, there's a lot of
I
good.
think those of us that are in the industry, we see the exponential growth in inquiries, and we realise that there's no way that we can field all of the inquiries, and there's no way that we can keep up. So, if we're seeing that we can't keep up, then it obviously means that there's not enough engineers coming into it. So, even if we do help each other, I don't think anybody's got anything to fear in terms of, oh, this company is going to take food off of my plate. I think if we all collaborate and we all create more success stories around heat pumps, then that will mean more people want heat pumps, and it's just going to be working together for a better future for all of us.
That's right.
Yeah.
Agree with that.
Yeah, Tom, you mentioned this peer to peer. So when I set up Beta Teach, I mean, a lot of people think, do I do or run training? I don't. It's a philosophy, and it was based around some research that was done in 2005. And the two main principles is activate engineers as learning resources for one another. So that's your peer to peer, and then activate engineers as autonomous learners. People have got to get it that that the ownership of learning is kind of on them. So they want to be a bit passionate about
Yeah.
learning stuff because that is a bit of an issue. A lot of people think, a lot of adults especially think, oh, I'll go on a course and automatically I'll know it in my head, but that's not how learning works. So that. And I used to go and speak with Adam at Heat Geek about this peer to peer because they were already doing it. I mean, it's been happening organically for centuries. People chatting with each other, and of course, Adam was part of the eco technicians and where people were meeting up and exchanging information. And I just, when I used to chat to Adam around this, I used to say, look, this is actually this is researched in education. There's a lot of research about what you guys are doing this peer to peer. So really, really important, and it's really great also because. One of the things people don't really talk about is our job can be a bloody lonely job. You're going in. Yes, we deal with a lot of people. A lot of homeowners, etc. But that's hard in its own right, as we all know. Because bless them, people can be quite problematic in their homes. It can be quite a tough, stressful industry. I don't think the outsiders that are now talking about understanding. There's lots of them, and good on them. Realize that. So it's nice that you engineers can have you're a bit of support with each other for well-being as well as like this lovely technical knowledge, engineering knowledge that everyone's getting used to now. I mean, both you two go ultra marathon running together, I think, didn't you? I
This
don't-
this job's a bit like an ultra marathon sometimes, isn't it? When you're trying to wrap up a job on a Friday and you realise you've got to get someone on for the weekend. You do have to, like you say, you do have to dig quite deep in this job. It can be a lonely place.
Yeah, it can, especially all the responsibilities on you to make sure people are functioning properly after a big investment into their home.
Well, it's fuel poverty awareness day today. Lots of talk about it on social media. You'll get all the usual PR companies talking about it. Well, And I've been pushing back a little bit because I said, well, look, it's the engineers out there. We know quite a lot about fuel poverty. Back in my day when I was out on the tools, you see people that are really, really struggling. And then your brain thinks, crikey, can I charge them? What should I do? Should I do it? Because there's some people out there that are struggling, not just with money, but in life in general. We see it. We go in. I mean, you guys have been in hundreds and hundreds of homes, and there's lots of people talking about fuel poverty. Great, but they don't see what we see. We're the frontline people that see it and are helping out. Because and then that puts stress on us because you do visibly see all sorts in this game, don't we?
Yeah. Well, I did a lot of social housing years ago, and that even then, I'm talking sort of 10, 15 years ago, it was still a thing then, really. The sort of postcard old dear with a cat or a dog on a lap wrapped in a blanket, and it's definitely not getting any better, is it?
Worse, isn't it? It was the energy prices have basically doubled, haven't they, a few years ago?
Yeah, yeah.
But I think the gas prices are just so low at the moment that people can, for the most part. I mean, obviously you do get people that are really on the breadline that suffer, but I think for the most part, because gas prices are so low, I think that's allowing people to get through it. And are they subsidised? You probably know a little bit more about this than I do, Nathan. Are the gas prices are they subsidised? Is that's what keeping them so low, or is it the electricity prices are pinned to gas?
Well, the gas
They're
prices
unnaturally high.
the gas prices obviously have gone up since over the last couple of years. I mean, there's this talk about this spark gap, the difference between electricity price and gas prices. It's quite complex. It's not just there's some taxes that are on the electricity price, but it's to do with things like our peaker plants that are running on gas, liquefied sort of gas. They there's some price things around them. So my contacts within Ofgem said, look, it's quite hard to get this gap narrower, which is, and a friend of mine has just written an article around this because obviously the HPA again, they're bringing manufacturers together to and they're chatting about getting this electricity price down, but the argument of that article was like, you guys are manufacturers, start helping the engineers more with like what you can do with your own technology, because you're not going to be able to change. The government do know about it. It's not as if no one's telling them. They know about this high electricity price, but maybe try and concentrate on some of the stuff that you can control, because you can't control that. It's probably unlikely that a government in its first term is going to do anything with that price. Because there is a lot of things manufacturers could be doing and arguably should be doing. You could say some of them are on the back foot a little bit. Some have been a bit more proactive in doing stuff. I mean, what makes do you guys use? I mean, I could probably guess, but what makes do you guys use?
In terms of heat pumps.
Yeah.
So pretty much exclusively Vaillant, to be honest. Installed a few Viessmann some years back and a Grant, but probably won't go there again.
You got Mitsubishi as well, haven't you? That's
Yeah.
always a strong contender, and Dakin are pretty good as well.
You wouldn't go back to Grant, Michael, because obviously Damon's.
No, I wouldn't, simply because the controller was just horrible, and I installed it in. It's a Chofu unit, which is a Japanese
Yes.
manufacturer, isn't
Yeah.
it? And so I got the Chofu instructions and installed it that way, which meant it run better than it would normally if you put it on an S plan. But it's completely unusable for the end user. And there's a lot of heat pumps out there that are like that. And those are the ones that really suffer with high running costs. You were saying about fuel poverty. I don't really see the gas fuel poverty because I don't work in social housing, or, the people that I do work for, admittedly, they are, they're not in that bracket of earners. But I do get calls about heat pump users that are just, they can be paying like £10 a day to run their heat pump, and that's just because they've been completely bodged by the original installers. So you see a lot of that, and that's quite a tough one to see, because a lot of the time I need to spend quite a lot of money to put that right.
Hmm. Are you Vaillant as well, Tom?
Yeah, so the ones we've done in the last few years have basically been either a Mitsubishi Ecodan or Vaillants.
Yeah.
We're Worcester Bosch credit partners for oil and gas. I'm not saying their product's not good because obviously, they've got their strengths and their weaknesses in anything. But I think from what I'm seeing and what I'm talking to others about, that the Viessmann and the Vaillants and even the Mitsubishis are the best ones to look at.
Yeah, I was going to say because you're Bosch accredited for your boilers. I mean, because they've been around heat pumps for a long time. So they've got an IVT unit back in the day. Like a lot of the boiler manufacturers, one of their units that they're using is the Midea unit. I mean, Clivet use Midea, and Bacti
Yeah,
have got Midea, and Ideal have got a Midea, but they have got their own unit as well, Bosch, which I kind of hear good things about actually at the moment. And the other
yeah,
thing with Bosch is they've always had a lot of good support and technical support backup usually.
that's
Um,
been probably the reason we've looked at them for boilers in the past.
mm,
They've got a few dynamics changing at the moment within their company, and that's not really for me to. I only hear bits and pieces, but I think it's the backup traditionally has been very, very good, and that's why we use them. And they've got a product for every scenario as well, and I think that always helps, whereas
yeah,
some of the other manufacturers don't.
they've got air to air stuff. Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
that's an interesting point. That the structural changes that are going on in the company. I mean, Viessmann. I mean, the three top guys I knew at Viessmann aren't there anymore at Viessmann, and they've left. Um,
Yeah.
this transition is interesting, isn't it? All sorts of things are happening in our industry. Obviously, we're getting gas engineers to transition over to a different technology, but we're seeing some interesting things happening sort of in the other aspects of the industry. Lots of changes in some of these the manufacturers. I mean, do you like the Mitsubishis? Because obviously they've been going into sort of the social housing for quite a long time. They're sort of they were the ones sort of got into this quite quickly. You like them, do you, Ryan? Tom?
yeah, exactly that. Yeah, yeah. I think I think that's the reason they've been around a long time. They've probably learned quite a lot as well.
Yeah.
Now, support and backup, I'm not so sure how that stands with Mitsubishi, but I do know that they're a decent unit. Um, when we first started using the controllers and things, it was getting your head around it, but I think most things are when it's new. But yeah, I'd happily use them again, to be fair. And from a cost perspective, I think they're around the same sort of money as the Vaillant and the Viessmann anyway. They're sort of the top end, so to speak.
Yeah, a lot of the time it's going to come down to sort of that technical support you can get from your local technical rep who's in your area, I presume, isn't it? And
Yeah, it's important. Yeah,
yeah.
aftercare is huge. That's something we've worked on with our company massively with our care plans. We have about 400 people on them now, and whenever we go in and fit a new boiler, it's making sure that those people have the backup that we're going to come back to service the boiler next year. We're not offering braid out packages with it because we don't need to because they're all under guarantee. But I think that aftercare and support is what sort of sets us aside where we are locally to other companies. So it's a very, very small thing, really, that people are looking for, and actually you should be offering it. So that's whether it's from a company like us, a small company, or from a bigger company like Bosch or Mitsubishi or whoever we choose to use. So that's a massive factor when we're deciding what we are going to use, along with obviously efficiency and a setup, sort of running costs and things, and easy to use programmers.
We have got to be quite flexible at the moment, haven't we? Because it's in such an early stage in terms of those European heating manufacturers coming into it. For example, the Ideal unit, I don't know anything about that, but yeah, I'd be interested to see what it's like. It's easy to just look at a company's reputation with boilers and assume that they're going to go down the same vein. The Ideal's heat pump is going to be the sort of thing that goes into a new build across the country, but we don't really know for sure. I mean, we just got to be flexible and just have a look at what comes out and assess it on its own basis. I'm interested in, I don't install Worcester Bosch boilers, but I'm definitely interested to see what they come out with.
Yeah, again, it's this technical support piece as well, which is interesting. It's about which of the boiler manufacturers are going to be able to maintain that. So one of the things I caught the interest of some people in the energy department a few years back because I grew up with a dad who was working for Triangle Redfire in the late 70s, early 80s. Now at the time, Triangle Redfire were the top leading boiler manufacturer because they did solid fuel, gas, and oil, and they got rid of all their technical reps. They made them redundant. My dad was one, and they literally fell to rock bottom, literally. And nowadays, you could argue that's even more possible for a boiler company that's been our top four have been, had a good for a good good long time, because it's now changing. You know, if their KPIs sort of and their market share does drop by just a few percent, that can actually be quite dramatic for some of them. So it's very interesting what's going on in that world. Obviously, we've had the news, haven't we, about the clean heat market mechanism. I'm not an economist. I struggle to understand a lot of it, and I know I'm around the people that know a lot about it, but I don't know how
Yeah.
that's going to work with these manufacturers.
As far as I could tell, only Vaillant were the only ones that were really going to have a chance of meeting those requirements when it came in January, anyway. Because
Yeah,
but they're all doing heat pumps now, aren't they? In the time since it was first announced last year to now, every single one of those big four are now doing heat pumps, aren't they?
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. So I deal a part of Group Atlantic and Fujitsu or something. So one of their units is a Fuji, and the other one's a Midea. Yeah, that Midea cracked the OEM market in this country. I mean,
Yeah.
they make stuff for about 11 manufacturers, I think. Yeah, they're all in it. And it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, are you having any problems with the stuff you've put in? Are you having to go back to, because obviously that's always a worry if there's problems with some of the units that are out there running.
Oh, the units have been honestly, Vaillant's units have been amazing, to be honest. I've been quite. I've heard the odd story about certain issues with Vaillant having to send technical out, but none of mine have had any problems whatsoever.
Mm,
I've probably got about 20 units out there, I would say,
mm.
and there's a few Viessmanns, but they're all performing well. They all seem like really reliable pieces of kit, to be honest. The
Uh,
only one I've had to go back to a few times is the grant I installed, and that was just to set up the weather compensation curve, because I think that just has like a straight line weather compensation line. So at times a year it doesn't quite feel right. That's been the toughest one to get right, to be honest. And I think that's just because the control was so rudimentary on it. The Viessmann and Vaillant have been a pleasure to work with.
I think they've changed their controls now, haven't they, Grant? Because Damon put a Grant in recently, didn't he? Old Damon's
Simon
all eight.
Blakemore,
Yeah,
yeah, they got a new smart controller, haven't they?
they got
So is
something.
that what it is?
Yeah, he seemed he seemed to like it. So that's and I think their new controller worked with the Homely, which is the optimizer. I've chatted to. I had Adam on the podcast actually, and Carolis from Homely. We did a podcast actually at the installer show. MCS, Mike, how'd
Yeah,
you get on with all that sort of stuff? That's always something that sometimes puts people wanting to transition into the industry off, does it? I mean, is it something you just
yeah.
find okay?
I've literally just the other day had my MCS application approved. So um, I wasn't going to do it, to be honest. I just thought, it's considering that you can go to an umbrella company, and we've used a few over the years. I just thought, it for what it's worth, for a small company to jump through all the hoops that are required to go MCS, it's not worth it. But I wanted to go MCS for reasons other than being able to offer to access the grant directly. I wanted it to, be able to make partnerships with companies, to work with councils and things like this. So strategically, it's been like a business decision to do it. But having done it, I find the process quite ridiculous, to be honest.
Mm,
The
yeah.
amount of the amount of hoops you have to go through is crazy. You have to do an application for um, your competent person scheme. You have to do your application for your consumer code, and you have to get insurance back guarantees for every job. I don't even think any of these ever get used, do they? I
Mm,
don't think consumers ever actually use any of these things, but you have to jump through them. So I've done it. I can't see I'll ever be a fan of the process. I think basically they should just cut all of that bureaucracy out. Let as many heat pump installers who have got proper heating qualifications come into the game as possible. The ones that do well will get good reputations. The customers will have more choice, less expense. The market will sort it out. And at the moment, I just feel like all of these people are just creaming money out of it.
mm. What's your thoughts on that, Tom?
Yeah, so MCS. Honestly, one word, probably terrified. I think for a small company, it's a lot of admin, and that comes with a lot of cost. So you've got to make sure that when you're investing any money into your company or time by having an extra person in the office to help you with things, that it's going to pay back for itself. So till now, no, we haven't gone through the MCS, and obviously I only heard early on this morning that Michael's got his, so no doubt I'll be tapping him up in the interim to and maybe even pop down to commission the first few with us and go through it. So
But I got helped with, my MCS application by other installers with various paperwork templates because a lot of it is, having the right paperwork in place. So it's invaluable, helping each other get over the line with that kind of stuff, however mad some of it seems.
Hmm. Do, do, do you another sort of, because obviously we know the big companies have all that sort of MCS. So I'm talking about energy companies. Now, some of the things I hear from engineers is um, that they're getting priced out of certain jobs quite a lot. Now, depending on the area where you live, some engineers can wear that quite easily. They've got a customer base that's still going to come to them. Has that affected you guys at all? Because obviously a customer can get it a lot cheaper in some situations with the energy companies that are installing stuff. Is it affecting you, or are you okay in your particular areas?
I'll jump
Not
on
not
this.
at all. Yeah.
Um,
Go on, Tom.
all right,
Yeah.
okay. Just purely because of a conversation I had 2 days ago during an oil and gas boiler, well, gas and oil boiler, quite going to call it oil, but they'd had Eon out, and it's a one pipe system, and they were going to fit a new air source heat pump to the system, full system installation, 17 radiators in a bungalow, and they were going to do it for 5,000 quid.
Mm.
So straight away, the conversation I had with the customer is they were asking me, they had a price from Fisher for electric, they had an air source heat pump company come out, one of the big ones, and then they've had a local company with us for the oil. Now, the conversation basically went, what's the average cost of an air source heat pump installation? I've replied anywhere from sort of 15 to 20,000, depending on how big the system is and what's obviously going to be involved. Now, again, spec of versus heat pump will come into that. I understand, the Rielos might be a lot cheaper entry level compared to the higher end. But those conversations are gonna be floating around a lot. Now, 5 grand won't get you a lot in the heating industry. It won't even buy you a decent air source heat pump. So I think that's where we've got to kind of have that conversation with the customers, and straight away they kind of understood where we were coming from. And I think, first of all, they were quite excited. 5 grand for a heat pump, wow, and a full new heating system. But what's that going to look like? Is it then going to become an electric boiler? That's kind of where the costs then stack up, and then you get this bad reputation from, heating installers doing a terrible job.
Mm.
So I think we need to set the tone now to customers and help educate them that actually, the big boys are purely based on sales. Um, there's good engineers that work for them, so I'm not going to start slating all of them because there are good engineers that work for big companies. But I think how can we transition from the sales side of it to making sure that they are getting the best engineers in there all the time? I think that's hugely
Some of
important.
them are really, some of the customers are really quite savvy though, aren't they? I mean,
Some
the
are,
more
yes,
the more
yeah,
savvy they are, the better it is because they
yeah, I agree.
understand the value of a good engineer and they, as long as they know what SCOP is, you're halfway there because you can say, well, the industry average might be three, have an install with us that's designed to, the limits of what your property can support, and you could be looking at 500%. Obviously, you can't, put that in writing because we've got an obligation under MCS to give a proper performance estimate. But in general, when you look back on it, that's the difference that you're looking at. And I think customers they're getting a real feel for that, and they're realizing that actually long term, not only will they save a bunch of money by having a good installer who follows, good design practices like open loop, ensuring system run times, low flow temperatures. They also know it's going to last longer. And I think the benefit of us working together, Tom, is that you've been able to look at exactly how I do that. And you guys are already great heating installers. So just by incorporating those design philosophies in, you're going to be the best heat pump installer in your area.
Sure, and I agree with that as well. Yeah, design's massively important, which is what you're good at. That's definitely your strength.
He is good at that. He's good at the old maths, is Michael, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's the
It's
he's a,
all in the
the
maths,
genius.
Nathan.
Out of interest, were you good at maths at school?
No, not at all, not at all. But I'm doing a degree at university where there's some engineering modules, and there's an absolutely insane amount of algebra there. So as soon as I saw all the stuff that was in this course, it's you're kind of brushing the surface of it with the heating maths, and you start to see like new ways of doing things. So for me, it was quite exciting to learn it because I was like, oh, hang on, this could apply to this. So one of the equation videos that I've done was taking the mass flow rate equation,
Yeah.
which is basically your load divided by your specific heat capacity and DT to get your
Yeah.
flow rate,
Yeah.
and then you then get the result of that, and you calculate your pipe size from your target velocity. But before I went to uni, that was just like a linear sequence, equation one, then equation two. But after I sort of studied engineering and studied algebra, you can actually combine the two. So that's when I done
Yeah.
a video about combining the two. And I've got it saved on my phone now. I literally just copy and paste it into the calculator, and I just pipe size in about 20 seconds. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I think you've helped a few people with that little pipe size and equation you did.
A
I
couple
mean,
of people are using it, yeah. So
yeah.
I think
I mean, obviously the way we used to do it, we'd have our domestic heating design guide book from Sibsy, and you've got your little charts in there where you have to run your finger across,
the
from
nomograph.
yeah
Is that right?
I don't know. Yeah, is that what they called them?
Is that what they call it? I think
Yeah, they're
nomograph. I think
like
that's what
little
they call it.
steps, and you run your finger across, and then you find what the
Yeah,
sort of the head pressure loss is per meter for that particular pipe size you want to use, and you got to make sure it's sitting in with the velocity range you want to use.
that's it.
Um, but yeah, you just come out and whacked out this like equation everyone can use, which is
Well, it's exact, isn't it? I mean, those nomographs, they're all right, but you're in a bit of a margin of error. Like the new SIFI book, that's just about 25. That's probably about 50 pages of nomographs.
this. I mean,
Um,
it's interesting. What I find is interesting. So I love obviously been helping people learn sort of the maths and science behind heating when I started teaching in 2006. So that's what you do. You teach people how to do
mm,
heat loss. I was very fortunate because I first started teaching in a prison, and they were these lads they were really interested in learning. I mean, which pushed me to help them as much as possible. So I wasn't in colleges to start with. I mean, obviously in colleges you're going to get people that are interested in learning as well, but you also get people that aren't. So it really pushed me to sort of really understand it. So that was kind of a benefit I had when I first started getting to teaching. But the maths, um, the maths side of it is quite interesting, isn't it? And it's what I'm finding is you got these engineers now getting so super passionate about the maths. Um, it probably goes a little bit too far. I think they get too a little bit about because when it comes
yeah,
to design, let's say when you go, let's say you're jumping up from 28 mil to 50, 35, for instance. That's the next pipe size up. And when we're talking about size of heat pumps, they're not in sort of increments of like 300 watts, are they? There's some jumps. So I think you can get a little bit carried away sometimes with
yeah.
design.
I've seen someone the other day put in like a hard limit on the velocity for a pipe.
You
They
can't.
said, "Oh, it's this is one. This is not 0.9. It's not one. So we can't use that pipe size." And it's like I think you have to sort of it's part art and part science, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
where you might have something excessive in one part, you might have something that's
Mm.
much more tolerable in another part, and it's the sum of it all
Yeah.
that counts, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think people like to have a rule of thumb, but I think once you sort of understand the concept, I think it's important to move away from using rules of thumb. That's why I like the maths, but I understand it's not for everyone.
Mm. Mm. Do you like the maths, Tom?
Not as much as Michael.
Yeah,
Of course, it's part of the game, isn't it? we've got to understand it. I'm not going to say there's certain equations that can catch you out sometimes, and the more you use it, the better you get at it. So I think implementing things continuously will help with that as we sort of grow into the heat pumps a bit more. But I've got my buddy to ring up whenever, so be well.
I done an install recently. We're just wrapping it up now. It's been on for about a month. Big install, and it's got like 20 meters of 40 mil pre-insulated pipe, and then it's got a bunch of 35 mil. It's a 13 kilowatt system, and it goes right the way down to the end of the property. It's a huge long run. When I mapped it out, it came out that it was about 4.5 meters head or 5 meters head. It basically left absolutely no margin for error. But if you didn't map it out, you just stick it in a buffer to be safe, which is what 90% of companies historically have done. They just put a buffer in because they don't want to, they don't want to have to be that accurate.
Mm.
But you can be that accurate, and you can get a system designed to the best it can be if you map it out. I'm a big fan of it. I think every project should be mapped out.
Mm. I should
Definitely.
imagine some of your customers will love seeing all the sort of the maths side of it as well. Um, Talking about we've got some good news as well. Was it announced last week? About the planning rules for heat pumps, and
Mm.
that's gonna help you lads, I think, isn't it? This the boundary rules, the rules around permit development. That I think they're changing, aren't they? So is that's good.
37 decibels was it? They're changing it to as well.
And also
No,
I think
I think they've moved. I think they've moved the goalposts on both the background noise and the allowable noise, which essentially means that it hasn't changed at all on the sound assessment. Is that right? In practical terms?
do you know what I should know? I haven't dug into it. Like, they've changed the volume size about the outside units, I think, haven't they?
Yeah,
So
they have. Yeah, 1.5 meters cubed.
that's it. Yeah.
Cascades allowed in detached houses. And what would have been what the one we went on, Tom, the one we worked on together, that was a planning application because it was within a metre of the boundary. Even
Yeah,
though it was inside his wall, it was within a metre of the boundary. And that's gone as well now,
yeah, that's
Mm.
crazy, really, because that
or
was,
as of April.
yeah, that one was tucked well away from anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, we need a bit of common sense in this industry. Otherwise, it really impedes us, doesn't it? Definitely impedes you. Well, for the gas engineers that may listen to this, I think, you know what, maybe it is something I want to get into to carry my business forward. What sort of tips or advice would you both give them?
I think don't be afraid is probably the one, because I think that's the biggest thing is everyone talks, everyone's scared of change and new. The reality is, if we don't change, you're going to get left behind.
Mm,
I know there's still years in boilers. There definitely is, especially the servicing.
mm,
I'll probably be in retirement by the time real change really comes in. Um, so I think just don't be scared. Just embrace change. Don't
mm.
run from it. Run towards it. That'd probably be what I suggest.
What advice you
Yeah,
got, Michael?
I think by committing to learning as like a long-term process is really important. You can't do a course and know it. Nobody could ever, nobody could do that. Even, if you look around and you think, oh, I could never be as smart as that person. My brain doesn't work like that. You can grasp it if you just incorporate even just a few concepts like just pipe size or pump size, a couple of your jobs, and just the practice of it. Once it's ingrained, will just become second nature. You'll be amazed at what you can get to grips with if you just commit to the process of learning.
Mm,
Yeah, so I just think being flexible and open to change is the most important thing. As long as you got that, then anything's possible. Tom's right. The curve is, you know, it's completely the heat pumps are going up and boilers are coming down. That is that's the trajectory of it. We've got early adopters for heat pumps now, and we're in like the late majority phase or in the declining phase for boilers now. There will never be record-breaking years for boilers from this point on, I don't think. Whereas every year will be a record-breaking year for heat pumps. So even if it takes you, a long time to get into them, it's worth exploring heat pumps and incorporating them into your offerings.
Hmm. That was a nice way of putting it, Michael. Have you had any other engineers sort of get hold of you? Obviously, some of them are going to realise you're good, and have any others got hold of you and say, oh, "Can you mentor me a little bit, Michael, on my first
Yeah,
install?"
yeah, a few people have. To be honest, because me and Tom only spent a couple of days together, so we was breaking the back of the install then, really, wasn't we, Tom? We was
Yeah, the
putting in the
morning was the
cylinder,
time.
the rads were being changed. So we wasn't at the commissioning end, the wiring. We did go over how the Vaillant's wiring and all of that stuff, but we didn't get to the switch on period. So he's going to come back down again in the new year, and we're going to run over that side of things, and then
Gotcha.
hopefully that will you know that will mean that you've gone through the whole process with me, and yeah, I think that'd be really good. I think we'll continue to work together. I'm
Yeah,
really excited to see what Tom does.
Hmm. Yeah, no, yeah, good on you, Tom. Just to remind everyone, the listeners, what's your actual company called? Is it Arlo Plumbing and Heating?
yeah. Arlo Plumbing Heating, based in Bridgewater, Taunton, Burnham-on-Sea areas in Somerset.
Fantastic. So anyone in that area looking for having a heat pump, Tom's your guy to get round and have a look, see what you can do. And obviously you're based in I haven't been to Brighton for a while, Michael. I should get there. Come and visit again soon. I
A
used to go.
great place.
Well, I used to
Best
go.
city, best city in the country.
I used to go there. I used to go there in the '90s a lot for obvious reasons when I was
All right.
a younger man. I used to like jumping around to that fast beat music that everyone used to like jumping around to.
It's a good place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I work in and around Brighton Hove, but with heat pumps, you sort of do go a little bit further afield. Um,
Yeah.
I live in West Sussex, so a lot of the work tends to be around West Sussex as well.
Well, thank you ever so much, both of you, for coming on the show. You're an asset to the industry. You really are. You're doing some good work. You're helping each other out. You're helping others out, and it was really really nice to chat with you both today. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks, Nathan.
You
Appreciate
too,
the time.
Nathan. Thank you.